sitting next to you. Yeah, baby. Hey, beautiful, how you feeling tonight? In a crowd, you're the only one inside. And me and my brothers are feeling alright.
All right. Go ahead and fade out. Brothers Gal, ladies and gentlemen. Good friends, great music. Miss them dudes. Hope you're all doing well out there. Out there in SD or wherever you find yourself to be. Ethan, I hope you didn't go to Portland, man. Anyways. There was a couple things I wanted to unpack here a little bit today. Because on the podcast we did last night, I was talking about the Munich conference, and Bill Gates had a big time Freudian slip when he was being interviewed. Well, actually, it wasn't an interview; it was a forum type thing. So there was, I think 5 people up on the stage. But when he was asked about Omicron and this, that, and the other thing, he flubbed it with a Freudian slip, because they asked him about it, and here's what he said. Pull this thing up. But basically what he said was, he said, sadly, that Omicron was a vaccine in itself. Now,
it says...
sorry, I got Jimmy Dore going here. I'm going to get him off. Not that Jimmy needs to be off or anything like that. Just, there we go. You know how well I operate these machines, Just an incredible technological miracle I am. And apparently we're live right now. Hey, how are we all doing? I'm sitting there looking at myself. No, anyhow, I want to pull up this. Just got to find this thing here, where he says "sadly," which is just absolutely crazy.
To kick off,
So let me get this up on full screen so everybody can see it, everybody can hear it.
actually, and get a bit of a scene setter from Mr. Gates, because this is, I know, a topic that you've spoken on again and again. You were ahead of the curve prior to the beginning of this pandemic. Where would you assess where we are today in beating COVID-19?
Well, sadly, the virus itself, particularly the variant called Omicron.
Okay, right there. That's the first thing he opens it up with. Sadly, look at him sitting there. He's such a smarmy dude. I don't know. There's nothing about this guy that gives me any kind of warm fuzzies. I mean, I think he tries to come across like that, but you can tell, and every time I watch him, you can tell, because he's a nerd, and he doesn't understand his body language. He always, you can tell he's looking up and away all the time. He wrings his hands. He's got terrible posture. Not that my posture is the greatest, but I mean, I'm sitting here straight up, not hunched over and wringing my hands. He reminds me of like a Kermit the Frog mixed with Mr. Burns. Anyway, let's go forth.
Is a type of vaccine. That is, it creates both B cell and T cell immunity. And
Let's try this one more time. Let's catch this.
the variant called Omicron is a type of vaccine. That is, it creates both B cell and T cell immunity.
Did he just say that COVID, this variant, this mutation of COVID, known as what I've been calling the unicorn, just because I don't like even saying anything, did Bill Gates, now this is not me saying this, this is Bill Gates, okay? This is Bill Gates saying this, not me. Did he just say it's a type of vaccine? Did he just say that Omicron is a type of vaccine. Let's go back and let's listen to this one more time, or as Jen Psaki would say, let's reiterate.
Health, particularly the variant called Omicron, is a type of vaccine. That is, it creates both B cell and T cell immunity, and it's done a
Whoa, wait a minute. Did he just say that? Did anybody listen? And when he started out off, he said sadly. Now, why would you say sadly? Shouldn't he be happy about that? Should he be pleased? I mean, he's all about philanthropy, right? He's all about, global health, even though he didn't allow these third world countries to actually have access to the vaccine because there's no money in it. Kind of weird. I mean, this dude, and as I said last night, and I can prove this one too, his head of security was Jeffrey Epstein's executor of his will. Why'd him and his wife get divorced? I'm just asking questions, people. I'm not saying anything. I'm not coming up with any kind of theories on this, but I'm saying there's questions to be asked. And nobody seems to be asking them. Everybody treats this Kermit the Frog, Mr. Burns hybrid. If Alex Jones talks about human-animal hybrids, I guess I never thought about this, but there's one right there. A frog and Mr. Burns. I have to write that one down because it's Kermit. I'd like to put it, I'm going to come up with a little cross clip, and then be Kermit and Mr. Burns, and then we'll throw Gates in there talking about a human-animal hybrid. That'd be freaking hilarious. I don't know if I've ever seen him in a suit. He's usually wearing that sweater. He wants to come across like he's, the guy in the living room, just, having a good old conversation over a cup of Sanka out there on his island, out there off Mercer Island. Yeah, okay, so we'll keep going here.
better job of getting out to the world population than we have with vaccines. If you do sero surveys in African countries, you get well over 80% of people have been exposed either to the vaccine or to various variants. And so, you know, what that does is it means the chance of severe disease, which is mainly associated with being elderly and having obesity or diabetes, those risks are now dramatically reduced because of that infection exposure. And, you know, it's sad. We didn't do a great job.
Sad. Okay. He said dramatically reduced, right? Now, these are not my views, okay? YouTube, this is, I'm just saying, this is just your guy here. I'm just going back and we're just listening to what he has to say. Let's go back and check that out. He again uses the term sad. Okay, here we go.
Infection exposure. And, you know, it's sad. We didn't do a great job on therapeutics. You know, only here 2 years in do we have a good therapeutic. Vaccines, it took us 2 years to be in oversupply. Today, there are more vaccines than there is demand for vaccines. And, you know, that wasn't true. And
why would that be?
Next time we should try and make it, instead of 2 years, we should make it more like 6 months, which certainly, you know, some of the standardized platform approaches, including...
Did he just say there's more vaccines than there's actually demand for vaccines? Why would that be, Bill? What's he got put into it? Why is a guy like this right here, who's worth all this money, why, I mean, what's... And we played a clip last night where he's talking about how he met up with Epstein because Epstein told him he had people that could donate to philanthropy, which is what he's interested in, apparently. Now, why did he block, you know, the vaccine going to third world countries if he was so interested in that? This is a man right here that could end homelessness in the United States. He could end world hunger on his own. Why is he pandering to other people with money to throw in. If this is such a crucial thing to him, if he's such a philanthropist and such a good, caring person, and I mean, I don't know how many billions he's worth. How many billions is enough billions? And then to come out and say that this is what you're interested in, but yet you sit there and you're trying to pander to a child pimp who's running an awful sex ring, you know, flying all these people from all over the world down there. For what reason, nobody's ever going to know, because Epstein ended up suiciding himself. And then his French counterpart, the guy who had given him 3 12-year-old girls for his birthday one year, ended up suiciding himself in a French jail the other day, or French prison the other day. No camera. Now they're saying that there's nothing was involved because they didn't have a camera in the cell. But the one in the hallway didn't show anybody going into his cell. I mean, how hard is it to put a camera on a loop? It's pretty easy. I can do it. And I'm an idiot. I'm just some jackass sitting here in his home studio talking about these things. But what did this guy have to do with it all? And why did him and his wife get divorced after so many years? Successful foundation, billions of dollars. The ideal life that most people envy and would, are jealous of. Now, I'm not jealous of this guy at all. I wouldn't want to be him. I wouldn't want to be anything like this guy. Nothing. I mean, make your own conclusions, people. I'm just putting information out there. Unlike what the government wants you to do, unlike what, the news media wants you to do, I want you to think critically. I want you to have questions. Which leads me to we'll finish this little snippet up here and then we'll move on.
mRNA would allow us to do that. So, it took us a lot longer this time than it should have.
This time. Now, what's that mean? What's this time mean? Anybody? I mean, is he making a forecast like what Fauci did in 2017 when he said this presidency, this administration is going to go through a pandemic? This time. Now, we've had some of these things come up over the years, right? I mean, we had the Ebola scare. I think we had a patient end up in Atlanta, and then we had a man end up in Texas. It seems to me, now I could be wrong, but it seems to me that the black man that showed up in Texas didn't get the treatment that the individual in Atlanta did. Weird, right? I'm just saying. But this guy, what a character. I mean, and people just think that, he's just really something. And it's funny with everything going on. It's not funny. None of this is funny. And when I say it's funny, I mean, it's strange. I guess I should implement that terminology instead of saying funny, because quite frankly, none of this shit's funny. And most people just want to sit back and just ignore it. And everybody wants to listen to the mainstream media's narrative of what's going on with Ukraine. Now, I think it's horrible that if there are Ukrainian people that are dying, and that's what I'm seeing, then obviously I think that's terrible. But I in no way condone war. Not at all. I don't think it accomplishes anything. Friend of the show who was on, just a little while back, Nick Piazza. Nick, I'm, first of all, very happy that you're back home, man. We were concerned because he flew, after the night he did the show, he flew out immediately the next day to Kyiv. And I heard from him yesterday, and he's back and everything. So hopefully we can get Nick back on the show because he's been over there. Now, that's the thing that's difficult about these conflicts and these things like this, is because you're sitting there and you're watching, Ricardo and I were laughing last night because we were watching some of these some of these guys over there that were reporting the news, and they're wearing, like, they're strapped up in bulletproof vests, and they got these blue helmets on. And the one fat old man, he's out there, and he's got his chin strap on, and his ice cream neck is hanging down behind it. And you're looking behind him, and there's nothing but birds flying around. You don't see any smoke, no flames, I mean, I'm not saying that's. So, I mean, it seems to me that in war, I mean, the barrage doesn't stop. Is it like a start time, like your job, like you can punch in at this time? I mean, it looked like it was either dawn or dusk. The sun was either coming up or going down one way or another, because it was getting dark or getting light. I couldn't really tell, but it was obviously it was theater. And then you got there's the other guy that I keep seeing. He comes up on Fox, and they showed him one day, and he's running, but then he's stopping, and you can see that there's, some artillery shells being blasted off in the background, but they're a ways off. Nothing comes close. They run and they get in this big RV looking thing. And I'm not saying anything about, I'm not, it's just the way the news portrays things. And we've been lied to so much, as a people. I mean, look at the lies that have been perpetuated over the years, in my life anyhow. And it goes way back before that. I mean, look at the Vietnam War, Gulf of Tonkin. That's been proven that was fabricated, right? I mean, you've got the Korean War, you've got the Cold War. I mean, and as a child of the 80s, and any of you that are Generation X like me, I was born in 76, dating myself now, but I remember in grade school, it was all about, we had to take these standardized tests, the Iowa Basics. And the big deal was we have got to, as students of the United States of America, we have got to test higher than any of these countries, because we're the bastion of hope for the world. And I mean, Iowa Basics would come up, and I mean, you'd go home with a list of instructions and what you were supposed to eat the night before, and your parents would give you a pep talk. You had Reagan, running against fucking Walter Mondale, who just got done with Jimmy Carter, which that was crazy. You got the terrorist or the hostage situation, and then immediately when Reagan takes office, they release the hostages. And Iran. I mean, come on, that started in 1953. And it's funny because all these pundits want to talk about, and this whole thing with this Russiagate. I mean, talking about influencing elections, this country here, where we live, the United States, we have influenced more elections globally. We've taken out more leaders globally than any other country. And we do it constantly. We're constantly involved in this. You got guys like that John Bolton, and he's still sounding off. What the hell's he even on? That John Bolton needs to that dude needs to go away. He's never been in a fight in his life. And if he had, he wouldn't be so quick to want to initiate another one if he was actually the one out there having a fight, because he's never been in that. He's a doofus in a fucking suit, sitting there fucking running his neck. Just like the rest of these fucking idiots. There's Gates, and I mean, there's a few people who actually have something legitimate to say. It's just, you got to question everything. And so I sent a message out to Nick earlier. I want to talk to him and see what he's actually seen over there being on the ground. Because you hear about, they talk about the Russian separatists. And from what I've seen, now this is just from what I've come up with, and I'm questioning it all, because I've seen it from both sides. I've read things from both sides, but I see these other narratives going on that, I mean, they kind of make a little bit of sense, like, and I mean, I respect Max Blumenthal from the Gray Zone and Aaron Mate, Jimmy Dore. I mean, those guys have done actually great journalism. Jimmy's a comedian. He does his show out of his garage. He's kind of like me. I mean, I'm sitting here in what used to be, my living room. But Blumenthal, Max has been on a couple of times, and I sure would like to speak with him at some point. from what I understand, my brother knows him, and I'm sure it would be great to have him on. I mean, this is definitely below his pay grade to come on here, but it would be, I'd really like to talk to him because he's a guy I respect, and I respect his opinions, and I think that from what I've seen with him, he actually goes to the countries where these things are supposedly going on, like with Venezuela. He went down there and did a whole shoot during that whole thing. And, the whole narrative was that there was no food, that the grocery stores were empty. He's walking through a grocery store in Caracas, and he's filling up his cart with whatever he wants. They have everything from craft beer to steaks but here's the deal, it's expensive as hell. But the reason it was expensive, the reason that everything was so high priced was because the United States had put sanctions on Venezuela, and they were not allowed to sell their fuel, their oil products to anybody. And it was because we wanted to instate our own puppet leader there, Juan Guaido. Look into that. The UN said that, in the election where Maduro won, they said it was one of the cleanest elections they'd ever seen. Probably a lot cleaner than our last one. Just saying. I mean, and it's also, this is another thing too with the Ukrainian thing. It's like everybody said that Trump was a puppet of Putin. Well, if he was a puppet of Putin, why didn't Putin invade Ukraine during the Trump administration? Reports I've seen are that there's now, there's been, and this has been going on, but there's been, Chinese Air Force flying over Taiwan. It's much the same situation there. China wants Taiwan back. Putin wants to return Russia to its Soviet Union glory, is what he's quoted as saying. But and it's hard to say with him because he's come out with statements where he's wearing the same clothes, but the statements will come out, so it's like pre-recorded. And he's ex-KGB. He was a spy. That's what he wanted to be. Putin grew up fairly poor, lived in an apartment, shared with a couple other families. His friends were playing sports and this and that. He got into martial arts. He walked into the KGB office when he was like a teenager, and they told him to come back later. So then he went to, he went and graduated college. I want to say Leningrad. Don't quote me on that. I'm not saying this is fact. Okay, I'm just going from what I've read about the man, and so he managed to climb his way up, and ended up eventually taking over from Boris Yeltsin. And he puts a lot of stuff out there. I mean, it's funny, you see him riding a horse, fishing with no shirt on, wrestling a salmon. There's one where he's putting like a tracking device on a tiger that they tranquilized. I mean, but they said that in the KGB, one of the things about his personality was that he had that danger really didn't affect him. Like he had I'm trying to remember the way the KGB phrased it, but basically he would take risks that nobody else would take. And he's kind of doing that right now. But then he's threatening, posturing. He's come out with a statement saying that if Western countries try to intervene, that there's going to be retaliation beyond anything they ever imagined. The Doomsday plane is flying. We have 4 of those. If anybody doesn't know that, they come out of Nebraska, okay? When Air Force One flies, any kind of a trans-ocean flight, they always have the Doomsday plane following behind. And there are soldiers, this is basically a flying Pentagon. They have 4 of them. I think $233 million a piece. They're old, they're 747s, very drab inside, but no windows. They can survive a nuclear blast. So if there was something like that to go on, then guess what? Guess who gets on there? The president gets on there. His Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Secretary of State and Defense, I believe. Obviously, they fall in that category, but I mean, they've got war rooms. It's basically a flying Pentagon. And from what I understand, there's 4 of these things. And then they got the E6. Now, that's the one that's going to direct missiles and things like that. And I believe that one's a 707. But this thing took off. It's in the air. And I believe it took off out of Florida a couple days back. So, you know, who really knows what's going on? It's hard to say because all this stuff can be orchestrated so easily, which is why I'm hoping to have somebody come on that can you know, relay what he actually saw going on there, having recently been there. I've also been trying to get a hold of a gentleman that I was in prison with that was an ex-prime minister of Ukraine. I know he's free, and he's in the United States. I've just had a hard time trying to track him down, but I probably will have a hard time tracking him down because he extorted an awful lot of money from Ukraine, and I'm sure that there's probably people looking for him, I'd guess. And then you got to wonder what's going on with Zelenko, and I mean, I feel bad for the people, honestly, that are suffering from this. But there's been 14,000 people in the Donbass, which is the southeastern region of Ukraine. It's predominantly Russian-speaking, Russian Orthodox. These are the people that are being called Russian separatists. Now, there's been estimates of 13 to 14,000 of these people from that region that have you know been killed. They said there's anything from you know artillery fire to sniper fire. You know, they've got a lot of these people have become refugees. They've got bomb shelters set up, mostly elderly, women, children. In all of Ukraine, they're giving out, from what I understand, firearms to any man that's ready to fight. And I watched an old man on some footage earlier, you know, in Kyiv, and he walked up to these Russian soldiers and just berated them. He said, "You have our country, we have ours. You know, you should be ashamed of yourselves. What are you doing here?" I mean, that's kind of how I felt about the police and the tow truck drivers and the whole Canadian, you know, convoy, the Freedom Convoy up there. I thought, how can you be a tow truck driver and you're going to go and tow some other man's vehicle? That Justin Trudeau, that wimpy little, you know, enacting that emergency act and just draining people's bank accounts. I mean, there's truckers out there that have worked their ass off their entire life, more than Trudeau has. And all of a sudden they got nothing in their bank account. I mean, we really don't have anything anyhow in our bank accounts. It's all just a digital number, and once everybody loses confidence in it, it's gone. And, you know, our government and the World Banks and the EMF and everything, they're doing everything else to really make it so it is worth nothing. I mean, you got Klaus Schwab saying that by 2030, everybody's going to have nothing and they're going to be happy. Klaus Schwab won't be around that long, the decrepit old man. I mean, he's, you know, him or George Soros. Be interesting to see where their money's going. But it's kind of funny. I did a survey today, and going back, you know, to all this money stuff. Because I was just thinking about Warren Buffett and the fact that, you know, he's basically saying that he's not going to give any money to his kids. But he's, you know, obviously, you know, Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett, pretty much synonymous with one another. And then you have BlackRock with Lawrence Fink. You got State Street, and you got Vanguard. And between those, they pretty much own everything. They pretty much are pulling the strings. You know? Oh, looks like I'm going to lose the camera here, huh? Oh, hang tight. Sorry about that. The fridge just went off. And I forgot to turn it off because I'm a dummy. So here, now we're back. Look at this. Remote control. Fridge off. How about that? I always forget about that thing. I've got so many. I've got guitar amps and a DJ station over here and soundboards and another computer setup and two other monitors, speakers, you name it. I have to really watch what I do with the power because I can very easily just trip things and then bank, everything goes off. Anyhow, so we start off with the Bill Gates thing. We get on to Ukraine. Putin's trying to say that he's, going to annex the Donbass. And people have been killed there in violent ways. We're not talking about you're talking about 14,000 people. You're not talking about oops. I don't know. And then you got, the Omicron. We're, really we haven't heard much from Fauci now. And why did it take our fearless leader 24 hours to respond to the attacks in Ukraine? I don't get it. And what's going on down at the southern border in our own country? And then we have a truckers convoy here in this country that's headed towards Washington, D.C. What's going to happen with that? You got to think about that as well. These are all things that I don't think people think about. 2 days ago, I picked my son up from school, and I heard the conservative Black Patriot on his podcast today. I'm talking about the same thing that he did the other day. I picked my son up from school, and we're headed home, and I looked down at the fuel gauge of my diesel, and I got a 34-gallon tank, and I see it's at half, and I knew what was coming. Gas is up over 105 a barrel right now, or oil. I'm sorry, oil's at over 105. So I look at my son and I say, "Hey, pulling off here. We're gonna fuel up. It's been cold here. We've had 20 below days. It's gonna start warming up, but it's been cold. And with my truck, I got to warm that thing up, and it sucks a lot of fuel. So I go in and pay. I don't remember what it was. It was over $4 a gallon for diesel. And at a half gallon or a half tank, it cost me $90. Now, during the Trump administration, I was paying $75 to fill that tank up from empty. And it's going to keep going up. And these politicians, they want to get on there and say, oh, you and me, we're the ones that are going to have to take the hit for this. Why is that? So the politicians keep making more money? How asinine is that? 84% of the United States doesn't even know where Ukraine is. And I'd wonder about the percentage of the population that wouldn't even be able to pick out their hometown on a map, on an atlas. I mean, we've got a generation that has grown up just with, with these devices like this. You just, you get on this thing, and you type your destination, and boom, it tells you exactly where you can have a nice Australian lady tell you where to go. And you don't learn where anything is. I mean, I cut my teeth traveling with a Rand McNally Atlas, and I can see one up there on my bar top right now. The old one I have, I put away because it's just too many. Because I would always, with either a Sharpie or a pen, I would outline the roads I'd traveled. I would make little notes, and so I don't use that one anymore because it's too personal. I don't want anything to happen to it. But we used to carry Thomas guides that would show you every dirt road, and you had to navigate your way around. Now, people don't even know where these places are. It reminds me of that movie Wag the Dog. And you guys remember that movie? Woody Harrelson, Willie Nelson, Good Old Shoe. Remember Good Old Shoe? That was a great movie. I think it was Hoffman, was Dustin Hoffman, I believe. I don't think it was De Niro. I want to say it was Hoffman that was in that. What a great movie. I remember going to see that at the old Cody Theater. And they basically manufactured, it was an election time, they manufactured a war in Albania. And then they had, Willie Nelson come up with a song called Good Old Shoe. And Woody Harrelson was like, he was like some, I don't know, some like transient dude. But they they basically dressed him up and told him that he was, in combat. I'm not going to play the video because I think I'd get in trouble for it. But I believe it was Willie Nelson they had on there. Good old shoe.
We've just received this photograph of Schumann in captivity, held by a dissident group of Albanian terrorists. Now, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Morse code, but could you bring the camera closer in here, please? You'll see his sweater is worn. It has been unraveled in places, and those places form dashes and dots. Dashes and dots, and those dots spell out a message in the Morse code.
That's his Morse
and
code.
that message is Courage, Mom.
There's Woody.
Courage, Mom.
I mean, they just fabricated all this.
Courage, Mom.
Not bad for government work. Huh? Having a good time?
De Niro. He's
De
Niro and Hoffman.
Live TV.
To the men and women of Unit 303, to my fellow citizens, I say, Courage, Mom. I've informed the Albanian government that we will not rest until the safe return of Sergeant Schumann. I'm told his unit mates gave him the nickname Old Shoe.
Wasn't there an old folk song called Old Shoe? Do you remember that? Something like, I don't know, I can vaguely remember it. Do you know what I'm talking about? Old Shoe?
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Good night, and God bless.
Trump that, Senator Neal, you howdy-doody looking.
I mean, how funny is that?
As we reported earlier, U.S. serviceman Willie Schumann remains missing behind enemy lines.
It's all, you know, thinking ahead. That's what producing is.
It's like being a plumber.
Yes, like being a plumber. Do your job right, nobody should notice.
Everybody thinks
When
this
you
is
fuck
funny,
up,
but
everything
this
gets
is what
full of
goes
shit.
wrong.
It's the symbol of his elite military team, Sergeant
Fuck up,
William
everything gets
Schumann,
full of shit.
the Old Shoe.
What do you say we line up the president for the Peace Prize?
Hey, our job ends on election day.
Oh, yes, but come on.
Just for the symmetry of the thing?
That's right.
Oh, if Kissinger can win the Peace Prize, I wouldn't be surprised to wake up and find out I'd won the Preakness.
Well, yes, but our guy did bring peace.
Yeah, but there wasn't a war.
All the greater
There
accomplishment.
wasn't a war. I love that right there. Our guy did bring peace. Yeah, but there wasn't a war. Well, that's a greater accomplishment. I mean, you know, I don't think it's, you know, I don't think that's a far cry. Albania. And that's where we're at right now. You know, nobody really knows what's going on. You know, you watch that little widgeon ass over there with his blue helmet with his chin strap on. He's running around, you know, acting like he's scared. But they're, you know, I mean, that's the thing is that they've, you know, the people should have so much distrust in what you're being fed. You really should. I mean, this isn't misinformation. I'm just saying what you're getting on the news is misinformation. So what I'm giving you is not misinformation. I mean, you've got to question all this shit. If you're sitting there, it doesn't matter if you're watching Fox News, if you're watching MSDNC, if you're watching CNN. I can't even call them a news outlet anymore. They're so fucking full of shit. Watch that, you know, those idiots. Sit there and watch Stelter, Mr. Peanut Head. I mean, you know, things aren't going to really get any better until there's 335, nearly 335 million of us. And that's not counting, you know, undocumented individuals, which nobody knows what's going on with that right now either. Nobody has a clue. It's just, that's off the radar. It's just the next crisis. It's the next crisis. And meanwhile, and this is my point in discussing most of this stuff, is that it's just absolutely ridiculous to me that we are sitting here and we're watching these things play out on these global stages where we don't know what's going on. These things can all be orchestrated, manipulated. They play on your emotions. They play on the public's emotions, you know. And what do we have coming up? What have they been talking about? Joe Biden's approval rating, right? Midterm elections, right? I mean, it's always funny. I'm sorry, I'm not going to say funny. It's strange. It's very suspect how these things always seem to come up, just like they were just talking on that movie clip I just played, when these things come up around election time. It's very strange. But it's not really. It's orchestrated. And it's pedantic and it's pedestrian and it's been going on forever. And the American people Everybody keeps falling for it. You keep falling for the shit that you're hearing on Fox. You keep falling for the shit that you're hearing on these other news outlets. You know, I'm not involved on either side of the coin. Democrats, Republicans, all bags of shit. There's a couple that are all right. Thomas Massey's okay. All right, I like him. I like Rand Paul. You know, I mean, on the Democratic side of things, until she got ran out, I really liked Tulsi Gabbard. But then Hillary called her a fucking Russian asset, even though she's still in the National Guard out of Hawaii and she's done 2 tours in Iraq as a fucking medic. And that fucking stupid dirtbag Hillary, she's fucking widgeting her ass out of the woodwork again. Why is that? Oh, there's another election coming. She might have a chance to break the glass ceiling. Well, there's plenty of females out there that would be deserving of that office. Quite frankly, I think the office of the presidency is a sham, it's a joke, and it needs to fucking go away. My opinion, just my opinion, all these fuckers need to go away. Gone. Bye. Look at all the trillions of dollars. We're $30 trillion in debt. And they can't stop, because if the debt was paid off, we'd have no money. Now, I'm not going to get into an economics lecture here, but think about it. Where does the money come from? When it goes from the Federal Reserve to the banks, then they loan it to you at interest. It's the biggest Ponzi scheme there is. Our financial system is a Ponzi scheme. There's a reason they call it fiat currency. And y'all are going to sit there and just poo-poo me and go about your daily thing and complain about the prices of ground beef and milk and gas and everything, but not sit there and try and like chew on it a little bit and understand it. What I'm telling you to do is grab that dog bone and chew on that thing a little bit. Sit down and think about something once in a while. It doesn't matter what hat anybody's wearing, what shirt they're wearing, what yard sign they have. It's all stupid. And it's put there in order to control us. That's the truth. Shut me down, do whatever you got to do. It's funny because the things that I said that I've been censored on and shut down on have turned out to be true. Have I gotten an apology from anybody about it? No. The last one, they shut me down within seconds. I never said anything that was against any, community guidelines. But you got to, and then you sit there and you go, okay, well, where's the line here? I mean, when does something like Facebook, Instagram, social media, YouTube, when does that become, something other than a privately owned company? I mean, when does that become, you get censored. I mean, we supposedly live in the greatest, freest country on earth. We're not free. You're not free. You're free to pay your taxes. You're free to get put on lockdown and wear a mask. You're free to get the jab. What else are you free to do? Not have health care. You're free to raise children that you send overseas to fucking ridiculous wars and have them die. Or have them come back completely screwed up with PTSD and not be functioning at all. Realize they just went over and they just did atrocious things for what reason? For money, for the military-industrial complex. It's really strange that we go through the Afghanistan debacle, which was, you want to talk, you remember the butt fumble with Mark Sanchez? Afghanistan was the butt fumble, 100 times over. You want to talk about a butt fumble. And then Jackass gets up there and talks about what a great operation it was and it's a really great triumph when you see one of those big ass military, what was it, C-15, whatever, taken off out of the airport in Kabul with guys hanging on the landing gear and dropping 2,000 feet to their deaths. When we have Americans over there that we don't know what happened to them, we can speculate, we can guess. I'm guessing they're probably not all right. And we just turned our backs on them. We left them. Guys like Tim Kennedy, who's he's a stone cold, that's a bad dude right there. That guy he is, you want to talk about a guy that's in touch with his monster and his benevolent side? He knows that he can be that monster, and he's got no problem being that monster. I mean, guys like that going over there trying to help people. I mean, I got a lot of admiration for that guy. He was the guy that did that show, Hunting Hitler. We went down to South America and went into all these Bavarian villages. That's a whole nother thing. I digress. I get sidetracked very easily. But anyway, all this stuff just ties in together. And what really not personally, but what drives me crazy about all this shit is watching everybody get duped. And just watching people in this country just be stupid and fight over racism. And, you know, you all jump on these fucking tangents that are put out there for you by the media and the government. It's all orchestrated just to keep you stumbling around like an idiot and keep them in power. That's all it is. It's a power trip. It's not about money, because you've seen it. They can print money. It doesn't matter. They don't give a shit about money. They give a shit about power, controlling you, making sure that you serve their needs, you know. And I don't understand if, you know, people talk about Illuminati. I'm not saying one way or another about that, but Kurt Vonnegut wrote about the Money River. And there was a book he wrote called God Bless You, Mr. Rosewater. And this was a guy that he had it all and he walked away. And he talks about the Money River, right? Okay, this is not an actual money river for those of you out there that don't know. This is, you know, theoretical. This is just an idea, but what he said was basically that you have the Money River and it's lined by the people that are scooping it out in bucketfuls. Are they going to let you in? They're going to do everything they can to keep you from that Money River. And that's all it is. It's money, power. Ultimately, it's power. I mean, power is money. And then you live this life of opulence and you hand it down to your spoiled shit kids. When if you step back and look at it, there's enough in this. This is a plentiful world. You know, there is abundance out there for everybody. The problem is that through this monetary system, it allows some to start on this starting line that's way over here, halfway down the field. And then it makes others start, you know, in the bleachers behind the end zone. Like, you know, I mean, and then they say, oh, you know, you can do whatever. Well, yeah, you can do whatever you want. But you know what? If it's, when you got people like Hunter Biden, how many crimes does that guy commit? That guy should be in prison. He should be in fucking prison. And he's out there fucking spitting paint on fucking shit with fucking straws, selling them for $500,000 a piece. Where's that money going? You got his old man up there. That guy, you know, he's talking like he's got applesauce in his mouth. Barack pajamas, you know, the thing. You think Putin's fucking scared of this guy? And I don't even know what Putin's doing. I mean, I know people have, and from what I'm seeing, people have died, and I mean that ain't ever cool. I don't want to see people killed in violence. Who wants to see that? I don't want that for anybody. We have a short enough time here as it is. Why do we have to kill each other? Because your hat? Because of your magic man up there? Oh, he's in a better place. Huh? Why do we look up? Oh, what's up there? Something apparently. They're looking down upon us. They're in a better place. Is that why everybody's sitting around crying? I mean, a funeral, then, if that's the case, if they're in a better place, then it should be a fucking party, right? Like, shouldn't we all be ready to go Jim Jones then? Go Jim Jones it up? It's a better place, right? No, the fact of the matter is what we have is right here, right now. That's it. Every second is fleeting. Every second we're dying. That's why I kind of coined the phrase "dying my best death." Because from the time you get spit out your mom's womb, you're dying. You spend a number of years growing, but you're still, I mean, that growth is leading to your death. You know? I mean, it's it's a crazy world. And it's amazing that this stuff goes on. It's because, like, well, why are these people pursuing these things? Why are they killing each other? Why are people in southeast Ukraine that speak Russian and are Russian Orthodox, why are they getting killed? You know, why are people that want a better life in Mexico and want to come to this country, why are they not allowed to immigrate here without, you know, going through an almost impossible, routine of things, you know? I mean, like Ricardo said, it took him 20 years to become a citizen. I mean, and there's stories like that everywhere. So it's almost an impossibility. I mean, you know, why are females who hire these cartel coyotes, you know, whose families are going to pay anywhere from $5,000 to $9,000 to even more, just to get them across the board? Why do they immediately, when they know they're making that trip, take birth control? Because they know that the chances are they're going to get raped. And then we call these people illegal. I don't think anybody should be called illegal. Undocumented, okay, they don't have their documents. That's supposedly some kind of an issue. And you've got unaccompanied minors. I mean, where do you think these sex slaves come from in these because just because Epstein's dead, somebody else was picking up the torch. Let me tell you that. It's not like this is just going away. Because anytime there's a void in something, it's going to be filled, and there's somebody out there already who's picking that up. Where do you think these unaccompanied kids are going? They're flying people out of there in the middle of the night into airports where there's nobody there. Airports that close down. Some airports stay running 24/7, but there's a lot. I mean, the one in New York. I think it was Westchester, New York, and there's video of those guys, you know, sitting there talking about what was going on when all these people are getting off the plane. They don't know where they're at. I mean, it's like the reference that Bert Kreischer makes to the immigrant at the DMV, you know, holding their number. Me, you know, I mean, these people are getting off and they're just, I mean, they've just gone on some trek, crossed a river, ended up in Texas, got thrown on a plane, and then they ended up in New York after coming from, you know, Central America, South America. I mean, come on. And the cartel's just sitting there raking it in. Well, the fentanyl pours in too. I mean, we are stupid people. We are stupid. As Americans, here's what this has come from. It's been complacency and comfort that's led us to this. Because we don't want to, it's just bit by bit, we let this shit go on. We don't want to upset the apple cart because, God damn it, they give us just enough to get by. If we were to say something, we might lose our job. We might be ostracized. You know, they talk about herd immunity. Well, there's herd behavior too. And I tell you what, it's better to be a lone wolf than a member of that fucking herd. Because the herd, that's what the wolf eats. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's lunch right there. For the monster, the herd is lunch. Why do you think we keep herds of animals? Because that's lunch. Why does a cow do what it does? It doesn't know, right? It just does what the other cows do. There's our food, there's our water. Never enters their mind that, I'm going to be getting on, you know, march on the truck because there's some food, you know, then you're in a truck, then you're in a line. You ever seen cattle in the slaughter line? Then they thought, oh, wow, then they start to realize what's coming. I mean, it's pretty crazy. And you know what, people, here's the thing. I don't give a shit about, you know, and I've said this over and over. I don't care about making any money off this. I care about every one of you out there, to tell you the truth. There's some of you I don't like. I don't like predators. I don't like bullies. Some people call me a bully because I speak the truth. But trust me, I'm not trying to bully or intimidate anybody. I mean, if I want to do that, I can. But I don't. I never have. I can influence people. Especially, I just don't like the people that are doing wrong. You know, I don't like the people that are taking advantage of others. And I see that that's what's happening. And quite frankly, I mean, it's not the whole, I do love this country. I'm not gonna, I mean, but you know what? I would take a knee. I'm not gonna sing the flag song ever again. I don't care. I'm not going to. I'm not gonna say the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm not going to. I pledge allegiance to my brothers and sisters, and I don't give a shit where you're from. How about that? You know, you need something, I can give it to you, I will. I mean, I got to take care of the, you know, what my obligations are, and I try to, and sometimes I fall short on that. But you know, I mean, to sit there and we've seen through history what happens when you bend the knee at the flag and you sing the flag song and you say these things and you know, the one song that drives me nuts is that Proud to Be an American. You know, how's that? None of us alive right now had anything to do with the founding of this country. We had nothing to do with the writing of the Declaration of Independence, which was kind of an endeavor in hypocrisy anyhow. When you're talking about all men being created equal, okay, you don't mention women, and you've got slavery going on. You know, I mean, and yeah, people say, okay, well, slavery's been going on for, okay, yeah, it has been, but you know, can't we, as a people, I mean, we want to talk about evolution. I'm sorry, elevation. We'll talk about evolution. Shouldn't we evolve to a point where maybe we begin to look at it like that? We don't look at color. We don't look at religion. We don't judge one another by that. And look at what has been a big cause of that. It's been the monetary systems. Doesn't matter what country you're from. When you have an oligarchy that's, you know, an elite group, I mean, you and I, for the most part, can't run for office. I know a few people, I guess, that would have the money to be able to do that. But I mean, I wouldn't be able to do that because it's not your ideals or your thoughts or your intentions that wins elections. It's about this. It's about greasing the right wheels and having the money and the connection. It's not about, I mean, and then we get stuck down to two choices. A shit sandwich or a turd-filled fucking Greek wrap or whatever. Doesn't matter. What if you don't like either of those things? What if you don't like eating shit and turds? You just got to vote for the one that's less disgusting? That's what it comes down to in this system. You know, everybody's throwing out this democracy. It's democracy. We've got to defend democracy. When was the last time you had a say in anything? When was the last time a politician did anything for you? It's a good question. But you want to fight with your neighbor up the street because he's got a blue sign in his yard and you've got a red sign. You're going to get the same thing. Blue, red, doesn't matter. You're going to get a shit sandwich or a turd burrito. You're going to buy food that's poisoned. You know? You're going to live in a country that's inundated with fentanyl. It's just killing people left and right. Going to take prescription medications that are killing people left and right, but does Big Pharma ever suffer anything from that? Hell no, they don't. They don't suffer a thing. It doesn't matter if a lawsuit goes up against them or not. They pay out billions of dollars in the lawsuit settlement and just laugh their way. They don't care. They don't care because they're up there on that other side, you know, and they don't want you to be anywhere close. The only money that is, I mean, I don't know how many times I can say this. And I'm gonna tell everybody right now, do not take out any more credit cards. Don't take out any more loans. Because when you go to that bank, you know, and I use a credit union. I got away from a regular bank, but it's no different. I mean, when you make a deposit, they're only required to keep 10% of that money, I've made this point before, you go and you do $1,000 deposit. They keep $100, and then that other $900, guess what they're allowed to do with that? They can loan it out at interest. So they get the money from the Fed. It's not even real money, okay? It's not even real money. This is keyboard strokes. There's 3% of the currency in this country is actually paper dollars. 3%. And you wonder why you go, let's just do a random thing here. I'm not digging in my ass. I'm just getting out my bad motherfucker. I just wanted to look at some dates here. Brooke and I were doing this the other day. All right. Crispy 100. Crispy brand new $100 bill. 2013 is the date on that. Series 2013. Can you see that? I don't know if I can. It's not going to focus in on that camera. But I'll tell you right there, it's Series 2013. Okay? Let's see. Let's look at another one. 2013. $2009. Brand new. Got the little little strip. 2009. Brand new. This came out of these were brand new hundreds, all right? 2013. How about that? What do you think about that? Every 2013. Everything in the bad motherfucker came from 10 years ago. Brand new, though. What's that say to you? What does that say? That tells you they're not printing this money. Duh. If I go to the bank and I cash a $5,000 check and I get strapped cash from the bank, that's the tellers happen to sit there and like when I was, okay, believe it or not, look at me. I know. I used to be a bank teller. You'd take a brand new strap of hundreds and you take it with your fingers and you'd kind of crinkle them a little bit because they stick together. That's what happened last time I cashed a check. And then they don't want to give you the cash, but then you look at the dates on it, it's brand new cash. It ain't never been separated. And I haven't seen anything newer than 2013. Maybe look in your wallet if you're carrying cash around. I like to have a little cash, but that'll show you right there. Anybody got any from these last stimulus packages, all these trillions of dollars? Anybody got I don't know. I'd ask you if you've got a $100 bill in your wallet. It says 2021, 2022, anything after 2020. I'd like to see it. I haven't seen any. Brooke and I were looking at our money the other day. None of it. And I'm talking going to the bank and getting brand new money, not beat up old bills from fucking Walmart. This is them going in the vault at a Wells Fargo or whatever the fuck, and they coming out with strapped hundreds, and they're all stuck together in brand new. These have not been in circulation, and they're brand new, and the dates on them are 2013. Got to ask yourself what's going on there, people. Ask yourself what's going on and wake up. You're being duped, you're being fooled, and you're fucking just, you're wandering around like a herd of sheep or cattle. You go over here when it's time to eat. You go over here when it's time to get a drink. You go over here to take a shit. You go over here to go to work, get there at the right time, There's no critical thinking going on. If anything at all that I have a purpose in doing in life is to fucking say, wake the fuck up and think about this. Life is too goddamn short. I'm sorry for my language, but I'm not sorry, because it's just a word. It's just a syllable coming out of my mouth. That's all it is. If you're offended by it, I don't really give a shit. I couldn't care less. I don't see why it's that. I mean, it's just a word. And I hate it when I sit there around some guy that's, Mr. Churchy on Sundays, not take anything away. You want to be a churchy, be a churchy. That's fine. I don't care. But when you sit there and when you speak, you say frickin' everything, frickin' this and frickin'. It's the same thing as saying fuck. Just say fuck. When you say frick, the intention's the same. That's what I'm saying. We put all these stupid masks and these goofy ideas on what's acceptable and what's not. I mean, changing up 2 letters in a word, but saying it in the same context does not mean that you're like, you're going in the rapture and I'm not. Sorry, nobody's coming. All right? Nobody is coming. Bottom line. You got you. And it's time to use this. Try to use whatever's left of it that you have after going through the school system and, the university and then just getting browbeaten at work for your entire life. That's all that happens. You just get browbeaten, I mean, the master sits there and I mean, slavery hasn't ended. It's just it's a different kind of slavery. And most of us are wrapped up in it. I mean, if you sit there and you think about your biggest stresses, what do you stress about? Ask yourself that. What do you stress about on a daily basis? What everybody stress about? Huh? Right? That's what you stress about. And these jokers are sitting there they just poof. I'd admit it ends up to the bank, and then you're a dumb fuck going in there. And then they get to sit there and pick through your credit rating and decide what interest rate you're going to get. Well, where does that interest money come from? If the money in the first place comes from nowhere, and then every time you make that deposit, then it exponentially increases because of the, the fractional reserve system is just going to it can't operate without the debt. And it's gonna crash. I mean, I think it already has, to tell you the truth. And I think anybody with any kind of intelligence will tell you the same thing. I mean, and if money is what you want to make, you can go out there and make it. I mean, I can go out there and make, I can go out there and do it. I don't want to get sucked in that trap anymore. Quite frankly, I don't care. I mean, I know how to do it. I mean, if I need to, I do. I mean, sometimes you got to do it, and you got to do what you got to do. And I mean, and Brooke and I were talking yesterday, and yeah, it is a necessity. But you can also use it, you can use it to your advantage to maybe get beyond it. Maybe, orchestrate some change. I mean, there's a bunch of us in this country. We are many compared to the few. But we're being run by, our corporate masters. The CEOs making ungodly amounts of money every year, 27, 30 million, getting raises every year, while your dollar becomes worth less and less. I went to the store last night. I got 3 bags of groceries, and I'm talking like this was just like a bread, milk, and egg run. $50. 3 bags. I mean, it's only going to keep getting worse. I haven't been down to past the fuel station today. I'm going to head down to my shop here in a little bit and go work on a car. But I'm guessing that it's just going up. And dipshit, shuts down. And then he tries to blame it on OPEC. It's like, we didn't need OPEC before he took office. The first thing he did was, shut it down. Shut down the oil production. And guess what? That's fine if you got a solution. But when you have no solution, when you have no clue, I was answering the thing earlier today about electric vehicles. And I was like, yeah, that's great. If I'm just some doofus that's riding around and just going to point A to point B, okay, maybe I'd buy one. I mean, I've driven a Tesla. Those things are badass. Probably the fastest car I've ever driven was a Tesla S. I mean, that thing would throw your head back in the seat. I was very surprised because I've driven a Prius before. But guess what? I got a 7 by 16 foot tool trailer full of tools. Can't pull that with an electric car. I mean, you come up with an alternative to a diesel truck that runs on electric. But then you got to think about what goes into, to the batteries and everything. I mean, what kind of damage are you doing from that? I mean, I don't know. It's a crazy world. I mean, look at all the financing that goes into, say, to build a windmill. I don't even know if they ever produce enough electricity to even pay them off. Now, if you put a small one on your house, if you make a little wind turbine like here at my house where the wind's been blowing, I wish I had one and I should do that. There's a lot of people out here that have those small ones. But then they're paying the company like $50,000 for it. I have a welder and I have a lot of steel. Maybe I should make one. That's one thing in Wyoming we have all the time. Even if it's 20 below, we still have wind and we have sun. But look at the price of a solar panel. I mean, it's gotten out of control, people. We've let it go. And everything that's going on right now is our fault. We want to talk about millennials and work ethic and blah, 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 blah. Who wants to work? Think about that concept. You grow up thinking that's all you hear. You got to get a good job. You got to go to college so you get a good job. Why? For what? It doesn't matter how much you make, you're going to be in debt the same amount. They want you to be in debt, and that's it. And why do these people want that? To me, it seems like evil. When there's plenty for all of us. There's plenty for everybody. Like I said, I'm not talking about communism. But I mean, the base root of that word comes down to community. I mean, we're all in a big community. We're all brothers. We're all sisters. And I was having this conversation the other night. It's like if you want to look at, because you want to have the argument about creationism versus evolution. And if you're on the side of creationism, and if you're on the side of believing every single thing in that Bible, that is a 2,000-year-old book written by people that didn't necessarily understand thunder and lightning, and read sections of it saying that was God or Jesus talking or whatever. I mean, the guy that wandered off in the desert with his people for 40 years and talked to a burning bush and came down with stone tablets. When basically he could have come down and just with a stick drawn in the sand, do no harm, and it would have covered the whole 10 Commandments. Wouldn't it? Do no harm. Those are 3 words to live by right there. Do no harm. And if you do, then make it right. Some of it, some people do harm that they can never fix. You look at a guy like Derek Chauvin right now, the guy that murdered George Floyd. I mean, he I don't know what's going through his mind right now, but he's got to have more regret than just about anybody for what he did. And that's the problem with humanity too. Is like we're very capable of that malevolence in a second, if we don't know and understand it. But really, that's what it comes down to. If every country, if everybody in the world just lived by that, we'd be fine. We'd be fine. You wouldn't worry about giving something to your neighbor because it would come back to you when you needed it. Because there's enough out there. There's enough for all of us. And I'm not saying that capitalism is a bad thing. Crony capitalism is. Insider trading is. Taking advantage of people is. Lying, cheating, stealing to get more money. That's bad. It's not good. I mean, the way I look at it, the only real money out there is being made by the working people. Everybody's got a get rich quick scheme, do this, do that, affiliate marketing, blah, 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 sell fucking Amway or, But I mean, the ultimate Ponzi scheme is the monetary system, and the powers that be know that, and they just sit back and laugh about it because they're flying around in opulence. Look at John Kerry, that moron. He's on there today. He flies in his own private jet and then wants to talk about climate change. He's got how much carbon does a jet plane, a big ass jet put out? I don't know. A lot. Why isn't he? I mean, if he's so concerned about it, he should be out there on a rowboat if he's got to go over to the Atlantic Ocean. Or why not have a conference with somebody over Zoom? I mean, it's the same thing. You're looking at me, and I'm not looking at you, but I could be. I mean, you want to call into the show or whatever, you could do so. And we could sit there and look at each other. And it doesn't matter where you live. You could live in Zimbabwe, and we could have a conversation right here. But yet, so it's hypocrisy. This whole thing is hypocrisy. And you know, it's absolutely nuts. The human condition is really something. I mean, Faulkner said that there's only one thing, worth writing about, and that's the human heart in conflict with itself. I'll tell you what, I've got a pretty big conflict in mine. A lot of existential questions like, what the hell, what are we doing here? What is this all about? What are we doing? We're sowing hate, discontent, and bullshit, and we've gotten so far away from who we are and what we're supposed to be doing. And the sad thing of it is that we're all one. We're all one consciousness. That's what it comes down to. It's consciousness. I mean, the animals are going to take care of themselves. We, however, as human beings, you have to look at this. We are the only species that doesn't necessarily belong here. So what is it that we're doing other than killing each other? Seems to be about it, killing each other, hating each other, judging each other. And yeah, I'm judgmental towards the people that are doing that. But I'm not going to judge you. And even if I'm not even trying to judge them. They're lost. These people, they're lost. They don't understand. They've lost their way. I don't hate them. I just wish that they would wake up, you know? I wish people would wake up and understand that there's a lot more to this than what we're doing. It doesn't have to be about agony and pain and starvation and disease and sickness and discontent and hatred. There's enough for all of us. What it comes down to. So, I mean, spend some time thinking about that. If you think I'm wrong, then let me know, because really, what's your point in hating somebody? What's your point in, the whole stay off my lawn mentality? It's not your lawn. It might be your lawn for 60 to 80 years, maybe, if that. But guess what? It's gone. To sit here and say we have ownership of this planet in little parcels is absolutely, it's not solid thinking. You're not going to live forever, nor am I. So let me sit here and say, this is mine. Okay, yeah, I built this. But maybe it's something my son will get to use someday. Maybe it's something, that's the thing, is like passing on, passing things on, sharing, being generous, doing things for others. That's where you get the most joy. It's obviously the case. Look what happens when people kill people. What happens to them mentally? PTSD, right? I've been diagnosed with it over and over again. I keep trying to fight it and say, no, that's not the case. And every time I, end up taking one of those tests, it comes back that way. Could be right or wrong. I don't know. But enough babbling. Probably one of the only people that sit here and talk this long to himself. I've been going for an hour and 20 minutes now. So, I don't know. Hit me up. If you gain anything out of this, please, on the YouTube channel, please like it and subscribe. There's no obligation to you. But it does help me to keep doing this if it's something that you gain value from. If not, then, go on your way and wish everybody nothing but the best. So, as I always say, be good at it. Do no harm, and in all things be kind. With that, I am out. Gone on long enough. So, take care, y'all. Love y'all. Peace.
I wish I wasn't fat.
I wish I wasn't gay.
I wish I wasn't black.
I wish that I was brave.
I wish with every candle on the cake that I could quit doing these drugs, but I can't and I'm afraid.
I wish that I was smart.
I wish that I was rich.
I wish it wasn't hard for me to grow up and forgive.
I wish that I could help. I wish I wasn't sick.
I wish I was Tom McDonald. I'd be just like him.
I wish I wasn't sober. I miss it when the party wasn't over. Happiness was right around the corner. Every single night was like the best one of our lives. Now we're older. The good old days are out of reach. I wish that they were closer. I wish I wasn't anxious and I wish I could fast forward. And I wish that I could rewind, but they don't make that controller. I wish the nights were longer and I wish the days were shorter. And I wish that I could sleep enough to maintain my composure. I feel crazy. I wish that I was normal. I wish that I could kill myself but also be immortal. Take me to the oracle. I heard that time is borrowed. Can you give me back my yesterdays? I'll give you my tomorrows. Forget all of my morals and just live like I cannot remember sorrow. Before all of the tattoos and the cornrows, I was different, I was happy, I was calmer, I was young and full of hormones. Now I'm wishing for a time machine, I'd step into that portal and be gone.
I wish on shooting stars, or were they satellites? Maybe they were too far. Hey, ooh la la, I must have blown apart a million dandelions. Now they don't grow in my yard. Hey, ooh la la.
I wish I didn't care about the day that I'd be buried. Used to live like I was ready for it, always in a hurry. Now I'm worried, all my memories are blurry. I'm just barely turning 30 and the voices in my head are trying to hurt me. The choices that I made make me feel dirty. I was 25 or 13, I was smoking with the seniors, drinking beer and getting flirty. Now the Ativan ain't working, I need something even stronger. Give me childhood, my mother and my father and my sister, and a Christmas to make up for all the recent ones I'm missing while I'm touring the country for a living. Give me a hug and a Nintendo and a toy box in the closet. Give me everything I wish I had. Oh wait, I think I got it. I'm a rapper like I always promised them I would accomplish. This is awesome, man. I wish I had a friend to tell. I'd call him, and I wonder if I jump from here, if I'd survive the bottom, and would everyone believe me if I told them I had fallen? I'ma jump.
I wish on shooting stars, or were they satellites? Maybe they were too far. Hey, ooh la la, I must have blown apart a million dandelions. Now they don't grow in my yard. Hey, ooh la la.
I wish we were kids again, before everything was on Instagram. Ayo, things were so simple then. Me, my tree fort, all of my friends. Way back when on Beaver Drive, when the floor was lava, I could fly. Ayo, wished I was big like then. Never thought I'd wanna be a kid again.